Unraveling the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, history, war, and hope for peace. Welcome to our channel. Today, we're delving into a complex and long-standing conflict that has shaped the geopolitics of the Caucasus region, the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Nagorno-Karabakh, a mountainous region in the South Caucasus, holds immense geopolitical significance due to its location at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. This small territory is predominantly inhabited by ethnic Armenians, but is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan. Its strategic location and historical significance have made it a flashpoint for conflict, with both Armenia and Azerbaijan vying for control for decades. Understanding this conflict is essential to grasp its broader implications for regional stability and international relations. So let's explore the history, key events, and current status of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Chapter 1: Historical Background. The roots of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict trace back to the early 20th century. Nagorno-Karabakh is a landlocked region in the South Caucasus, primarily inhabited by ethnic Armenians, but located within the borders of Azerbaijan. But how did this conflict begin? The dispute began during the dissolution of the Russian Empire and continued through the Soviet era. Nagorno-Karabakh was part of the Elizabetpol Governorate in the Russian Empire, which had been conquered from Persia in the early 19th century. The Russian Empire's collapse in 1917 led to instability in the South Caucasus, and the region briefly formed the Transcaucasian Democratic Federative Republic in 1918. This federation soon dissolved into separate Armenian, Azerbaijani, and Georgian republics. In the ensuing chaos, Nagorno-Karabakh became a disputed territory between Armenia and Azerbaijan, leading to armed clashes. The brief British military presence after World War I temporarily placed Nagorno-Karabakh under Azerbaijani administration in 1919 to stabilize the region. The British aimed to maintain order and prevent further conflict, but their presence did not resolve the underlying ethnic and national tensions. The Soviet Red Army invaded Armenia and Azerbaijan in 1920, leading to the surrender of both governments and the end of the First Republic of Armenia and the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic. This marked the beginning of Sovietization in both countries. The Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic, RSFSR, gradually consolidated control over the Russian Empire's territory after the Russian Revolution. Nagorno-Karabakh, part of the Azerbaijan Soviet Socialist Republic, was not directly under RSFSR control but was influenced by Soviet policies and regional dynamics. In 1921, the Russian Communist Party decided to place Nagorno-Karabakh under the administration of Soviet Azerbaijan, despite its predominantly Armenian population, due to the strategic and political considerations of Joseph Stalin, the Commissar of Nationalities. Stalin aimed to reduce the political influence and potential nationalist aspirations of ethnic groups by dividing them along administrative boundaries. This decision was formalized in 1923 when the Soviet Union established the Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Oblast within the Azerbaijan Soviet Socialist Republic, sowing the seeds of future conflict as both Armenians and Azerbaijanis claimed the territory. In conclusion, the historical background of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict is marked by a complex web of ethnic and national tensions, strategic considerations, and political decisions that have shaped the region over the years. Chapter 2: The First Nagorno-Karabakh War. Fast forward to the late 1980s with the Soviet Union on the brink of collapse and ethnic tensions erupting into open conflict. In 1988, the Nagorno-Karabakh legislature voted to join Armenia, sparking a violent response from Azerbaijan. This vote marked the beginning of the First Nagorno-Karabakh War. The war lasted from 1988 to 1994. With a brief ceasefire in 1991. The conflict resulted in significant casualties and displacement. Horrific events such as the Sumgait and Baku pogroms against Armenians intensified the conflict. Armenian forces gained control over Nagorno-Karabakh and several surrounding Azerbaijani districts. A ceasefire was brokered in 1994, primarily by Russia, with involvement from the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE. This ceasefire, known as the Bishkek Protocol, effectively ended the active combat phase of the war. Nagorno-Karabakh declared independence, but it has not been recognized internationally. Chapter 3: The Interwar Period, 1994 to 2020. Following the 1994 ceasefire, Nagorno-Karabakh entered a period characterized by fragile peace and recurrent hostilities. Despite the ceasefire agreement, sporadic clashes persisted, fueling instability in the region. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan engaged in an arms race, exacerbating tensions. International bodies like the OSCE Minsk Group attempted peaceful negotiations, but their efforts yielded limited results. The four-day war in April 2016 underscored the persistent volatility of the region, despite intermittent periods of relative calm. Tensions continued to simmer for decades, driven by the absence of a definitive peace settlement and ongoing skirmishes. This volatile environment reached a breaking point in 2020, culminating in full-scale war. The combination of uncertain territorial status, diplomatic impasses, military buildup, eroded trust between conflicting parties, strong ethnic nationalism, and external involvement heightened tensions in Nagorno-Karabakh. This volatile mix made the region highly susceptible to conflict escalation, with even minor incidents having the potential to trigger widespread violence. Chapter 4: The Second Nagorno-Karabakh War. In September 2020, hostilities reignited in a fierce and deadly conflict known as the Second Nagorno-Karabakh War. This war saw the use of advanced military technology, including drones and precision-guided munitions, drastically altering the battlefield dynamics. Turkey provided military support to Azerbaijan, further intensifying the conflict. International actors such as Iran and Russia also played significant roles in the conflict. Iran, with its own regional interests, closely monitored the situation and expressed support for a peaceful resolution. Officially neutral, Iran's proximity to the conflict zone and its ties with both Armenia and Azerbaijan underscored its importance as a regional stakeholder. Russia, on the other hand, emerged as a key mediator and power broker in the conflict. Beyond brokering the ceasefire, Russia deployed peacekeepers to oversee its implementation and maintain regional stability. Moscow's involvement highlighted its strategic interests in the South Caucasus and its role as a guarantor of security in the post-Soviet space. The 44-day war in 2020 resulted in a decisive Azerbaijani victory, recapturing significant portions of territory lost in the 1990s. A Russian-brokered ceasefire agreement signed in November 2020 led to the deployment of Russian peacekeepers in the region. As of late 2020, Azerbaijan controlled much of Nagorno-Karabakh. The situation remains complex, with further developments in the region in 2023. Chapter 5: Current Status and Future Outlook. The Nagorno-Karabakh conflict has inflicted significant casualties over several decades, including deaths from the 2020 war and a fuel depot explosion. Despite periodic discussions between Armenia and Azerbaijan, efforts at negotiation have failed to yield a lasting peace agreement. Humanitarian issues persist, with displaced persons enduring hardship exacerbated by the blockade of the Lakan corridor. While mediation efforts by organizations like the EU, US, and Russia continue, progress is hindered by the conflict's complex and deeply entrenched nature, rooted in historical grievances, power imbalances, and ongoing humanitarian issues. Recent events, such as the Azerbaijani attack in 2023, underscore the need for a lasting peace agreement. However, the lack of international support and the power imbalance between Armenia and Azerbaijan impede progress. The future of Nagorno-Karabakh hinges on all parties finding common ground through genuine dialogue and compromise for lasting peace. As we reflect on the complexities of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, it becomes clear that advocating for peace and dialogue is crucial. Only through cooperation can a lasting resolution be achieved. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.